If you've ever stared at a blank page in Dorico and felt that analysis paralysis of where to even start with your concert band layout, this video is for you. Today, we're going to build a rock-solid professional grade 3 concert band template from the ground up. We're going to cover things like percussion parts, layout options, engraving options, notation options, font and paragraph styles, and page templates. So by the end of this walkthrough, you'll have a template that saves you 30 minutes of setup time on every single composition you write. If you want to skip the manual labor, I've actually made my personal version of this template available for download. I'll leave a link in the description, but I highly recommend following along so you know how to tweak it for your own workflow. All right, let's jump into Dorico and get to work. All right, and here we are in Dorico Pro 6 here in the Steinberg hub. And what we're going to do is we're going to get right over to the empty template category and click on empty, and we're going to create ourselves a new project. Now, if at any time that this tutorial is a bit lengthy for you, or there's a lot here that you may not need, there'll be chapters listed in the description so you can fast forward to different sections. But if you want the complete project real quick at your fingertips, I'll leave a link in the description below so that you can just access that real quickly for your own convenience. But here we go. We're going to add single players here to our project. And I like to add them in score order, so starting with flute. And to add a second player here, we're going to just either go down here to this button that says add single player, or I can use a keyboard shortcut which is Shift P. And I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my woodwind instruments and my brass instruments. Just so you know, today we're going to be looking at the instrumentation of 2 flutes, oboe, bassoon, 3 clarinets, bass clarinet, 2 alto saxophones, tenor sax, bari sax, 3 trumpets, 2 horns, 3 trombones, euphonium, both bass clef and tenor clef, as well as tuba. So let me get all that stuff entered in here, and I'll meet you back when we are done with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch the order at the bottom here from orchestral to band, and that'll put the bassoon above the clarinet family. That'll also put the trumpets above the horns. The next thing I like to do is, for any instrument that is transposing, you'll see that clarinets have their transposition listed, but nobody else in the woodwinds has that. So what I can do is I can click on this little arrow here for bass clarinet. I can click on the 3 dots and click on Edit Names. And down here at the bottom it says Show Transposition, and we're going to hit Follow Layout Options. And we're going to do that for the bass clarinet and all of the saxophones. The brass are pretty much set, but let me go ahead and take care of this, and I'll be back with you once that's all done. Okay, now that that's all done, let's start talking percussion. Obviously, your percussion needs are going to vary from one piece to another, but I thought that this would be a really good opportunity for us to just put something in as a placeholder so you can understand how to create percussion staves that are very clean, aesthetically pleasing, easy to read, and easy to manage. So what we're going to do first is we'll go in and we'll add glockenspiel. They don't have an option for bells, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to put in glockenspiel. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up this player to get to the instrument that they're playing, which is the glockenspiel. Click on the 3 dots and hit Edit Names. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to change the name to bells. And the same thing with the short name. All right, that's all done. And now let's add another player. We're going to add snare drum. Now I know that I prefer to have my snare drum and bass drum on one part, even though it's two players. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the plus sign here. We're going to type in bass drum. And there we go. And what I want to do now is I want to right click this whole player box and I want to combine the instruments into a kit. Now I get this really cool system dialog. This is essentially a 5-line staff. The 0 line here is actually the 3rd line of the staff. So I'm going to move the snare drum up to where you would normally see it and the bass drum. And for the bass drum, I want to make sure my stem direction and voice default down. And I'm going to click apply and close. But I want this to list my instruments, and the easiest workaround for this in Dorico is to actually go outside of Dorico to a simple text editor, whether it's TextEdit or Notepad, whichever you like to use. So let's open up a TextEdit window, and we're going to go in here, we're going to just type in Percussion 1, and underneath it, we're going to just type snare drum, underneath that, bass drum. I'm going to highlight it, copy it. We're going to go back into Dorico here, and I'm going to right click the name of my player, and I'm just going to simply click rename player. And now I have my new name, and my shortcut name is going to be Percussion 1. It's not going to change yet, but it will at a later point in our tutorial. Let's go ahead and add another player. This player is going to be playing crash cymbals, but I also want them to play tambourine, and I also want them to play wind chimes. But in order to get that patch in there, we're going to have to put mark tree. And now we're going to click on the 3 dots next to mark tree, edit names. And just like we did for glockenspiel, we're going to switch this over to wind chimes. And we'll make this WC for wind chimes. And then again, what I'm going to do is in TextEdit, I'm going to go here, Percussion 2, and we're just going to type these things in here, crash cymbal, cymbals, tambourine, and wind chimes. Select all, copy it, and we'll bring it back in here. We'll right click the player box, we'll rename the player, we'll paste it for the full name, and the short name is going to be Perc2. And then we'll also add another player that's only going to play suspended cymbal. But because I have all of my other percussion parts formatted, Percussion 1 and Percussion 2, we should really go in here and rename this player as well. So we'll go in here, we'll call this Percussion 3. And there we go. Short name is going to be Perc3. Now another thing that I didn't do was in Percussion 2, I should right click this and I want to combine these instruments into a kit as well. And this will give me a 5-line staff. So I want to make my crash cymbals right above the top line of the staff. And I want the note heads to not be your traditional note heads, but X note heads. So I'm going to click Edit Note Heads. I'm going to go to Note Head Override and go to X Note Heads. Click OK. The mark tree we'll put on the 3rd space, and I want that to have diamond note heads. And then the tambourine we're going to put on the 1st space, and I want the stems going down. And that takes care of that. The last instrument we're going to add here is timpani.
And now, if I want to reorder my stabs, I'd like the bells being right under the tuba, followed by percussion 1, percussion 2, then percussion 3, and then timpani on the bottom. So you can see I can click and drag and move the order around. So that gets the players set. But now we've got to talk about what their layouts are called. And I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger here so we can see more. Here we go. So for the full score, I like to call that conductor score. And then when it comes to numbering parts, I like to put first or second in front of the instrument name. So instead of flute 1, we're going to type first flute. Instead of flute 2, you guessed it, second flute. Oboe and bassoon are fine. When I get down to clarinet, because I have in my name here, well, I want to change it up a little bit. And what I want to do is I really want to call this first B flat clarinet. But in order to get that flat symbol in there, I need to do an opened curved bracket and the at symbol, and then type in the word flat, followed by the at symbol, close the curved bracket, and then I can write clarinet. And then that'll say first B flat clarinet. This is what I'm going to be using when it comes time to extract all of my parts individually. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean these up a little bit, and I'll meet you back when we get down to percussion. Okay, so now that we've gotten our brass and woodwind layout names set, we're going to come down here to where it says percussion 1. We're going to go back into our text editor, and now what we want to do is list all of our instruments on the second line as opposed to one on top of the other. So I'll just double click, I'll hit paste. Now it may not look any different, but it will be different when it comes to the formatting. Okay, percussion 3 is fine, timpani is fine. Okay, so now that we've gotten all this set up, let's take a look at what it looks like in write mode, and it looks pretty messy. This is where the fun gets to start. So what we're going to do next is go into our layout options. We can do this either by clicking on the library menu and going down to layout options, or hitting the keyboard shortcut here, which is Shift Command L or Shift Control L on a PC. It opens up to the page setup window, and if you look at our layouts, we have all the layouts that we just put in, and only the conductor score is highlighted. So anything that we do is only going to impact our conductor score. So here we go. Page size, we're going to switch to concert. Rastral size, we're going to switch over to 8. Our page margins are going to be 10 millimeters all around. Our music frame margins are going to be 10 millimeters. We are going to scroll down further, and we're going to make the initial page number 3. And we're going to click apply. You can already see in the background here, if I move this out of the way, it's already changed and cleaned a lot up for us, which is fantastic. We love that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to um, scroll back up, and now we're going to click this music stand button down here. This is going to select all of the parts all at once for us. And for these, we're going to switch the page size over to concert. Rastral size is going to be 5. And our margins, 10 on every side. Music frame margins, 10 on every side. And that's all we need to do. Next, we're going to go over to players. And we're actually going to select all on this. And we're going to go down to where it says percussion. And I'm just going to click 5-line staff for both because we need it to default to that for both the score and the parts. I'm also going to make sure that we show cues on the score and the parts. Okay, then we'll go down to condensing. And for this, I only want to select the score. And condensing is where I can combine multiple staves into one staff, and then it just makes it a little bit easier to read in terms of vertical spacing between the other staves. So we're going to click Enable Condensing, and I'm going to create some custom condensing groups right over here. Clicking the plus button, I'm going to click my first option, hold the Shift key down, and click any other staff that I want to include in that condensing group. So we'll condense our flutes together. We'll condense clarinet 2 and 3 together. I want to condense alto 1 and 2. I want to condense trumpet 2 and 3, and horn 1 and 2. And my last group is going to be trombone 2 and 3. And as I go to apply that, you can see in the background we have a little bit more space now between everything, and that just makes life much nicer. Okay. Now that that's done, let's go over to Stabs and Systems. And this is where our player name that we made for percussion 1, 2, and 3 are going to come into play. We're going to click those, and when I hit apply, I'm going to scroll down here, move this out of the way, and show you what it did for us. So now it's got everything listed there beautifully, like we told it to. For position, pitch transposition, we do not want to show it in the abbreviated staff labels, but we do want it to be at the beginning of it. And that will just make life a lot easier. And now you'll see that I have F horn or B flat tenor saxophone and that tenor saxophone in B flat. And then when it goes over to the shorter name, it just says trumpet. It doesn't have the transposition there. Makes it a little bit cleaner. Okay, let's go to time signatures now. We're going to click on show once per bracket, and we're going to make the design narrow and sans serif. Click apply. Now let's go to bar numbers. And again, we're looking at just the score layout. It's going to be every bar centered on the bar. We're going to show it on the bottom of the system, not the top. Our minimum distance from the staff is going to be 5. Our minimum distance from other items is 1/4. We're going to make it outside the dynamics. We're going to align it across the width, and we're going to enclose it in a rectangle. I want to make sure that I show bar numbers at rehearsal marks, and that I show the first bar number when I show every bar. Click apply. Now I want to go into the parts, and the parts are going to be every system, but we're going to make it left aligned on the bar line, and we'll click apply. Go back to our conductor score, and the last thing that I want to do is we're going to switch over to wind band and hit apply, and we'll click close. And you'll notice I took a lot of the bracketing out because we're going to do our own bracketing right now. If you click on the engrave mode, what we're going to do is we're going to just draw a nice little box around the first measure of all of our woodwind parts. And that's going to be a chance for us to hit insert bracket. Because I have 2 flute parts, I'm going to create a sub bracket there. I'm going to bracket my clarinet parts, bracket the alto saxophone parts. And then when I go down here to brass, I'm going to go all the way down from trumpet to tuba. Do that. Sub bracket for the trumpets. Sub bracket for the horns. Sub bracket for the trombones. And then the last thing I want to do is the same idea with the percussion. And I want to bracket all that. And now we've got something that looks really great. So now we're going to go into some engraving options. And again, we can access this through the library menu, going down here to engraving options, or you can use Shift Control E or Shift Command E on your keyboard. We're going to go right over to articulations, and I'm going to use the subcategory of placement, and I'm going to change the placement of the marcato to its natural placement. Then I'm going to go over to the category of bar numbers, and the enclosure line thickness I want to make sure is 4/25. Then we'll go over to bar lines, and you want to check these numbers because they may not be exactly what I have. So here we go. Number 1 should be 4/25. Number 2 should be 1/2. Number 3 should be 5/8. Number 4 should be 1/5. Number 5 should be 2/5. Number 6 should be 4/25. Number 7 should be 1/4. And number 8 should be 1/4. We'll go to brackets and braces. And I just want to go down here to sub brackets. And I want to make sure that my line thickness is 4/25. And that my sub bracket design reaches the bracket, not the systemic bar line. And click apply. Next, let's go to condensing. I'm going to scroll down here to separator between player numbers. I like a comma, and then after the final player number, nothing. After single player number, that's all great. Let's go over to cues. I like to have as much information as possible in a cue. So articulations, slurs, dynamics, playing technique, ornaments, lyrics, text, fermatas, horizontal lines, all should be included in the cues. The clef, we should be using the clef of the destination instrument. And then further down here, there's an option for an additional label at the end of the cue. We're going to show play at the next entry. Dynamics, the appearance, we want to have the subito on the left. And for gradual dynamics, we want to make sure that the line thickness of our hairpin is 4/25. That our appearance of niente is an N. And when there's a continuation hairpin at a system break, we restart the hairpin. Next, we'll go over, oh, we have one more thing here. I forgot about that. Under horizontal positioning, we're going to go down here to where it says relative to bar lines. This is under horizontal position. Minimum distance to the right of the bar line is going to be 0 spaces. Now, our notes, we'll go to notes. We're going to switch over to default size note heads. Just gives us a little bit more space between the notes. Now let's go over to rehearsal markers. Rehearsal marks are going to be bar numbers. The alignment is going to be left aligned, and it's going to be left aligned with the systemic bar line with a horizontal offset of 0. The enclosure, minimum width is going to be 3. The enclosure line thickness, by the way, should be 4/25. Minimum width is 3, minimum height is 3. Left and right padding should be 5/8. The top padding should be an 1/8, bottom padding should be an 1/8. Next, we'll go to rests. We're going to go to multi-bar rests. Scroll down here, and we want to have no bar count for single bar rests. Next, we'll go over to slurs and the design. The thickness of a curved slur, the end thickness should be 1/10, and the middle should be 11/50. For endpoint positioning, we want to make sure that on the stem side, the vertical offset is 0. And when we have slurs that are starting on notes with opposite stem directions, we want to position stem side endpoint near the stem end. In this same area, we want to go down to avoiding collisions. And as we scroll down and look at accidentals, we want to look at this option here to not allow the slur to bisect the stem of a flat. Let's go down here now to staff labels, and scrolling down, when my staff labels for identical adjacent instruments are held by a single player, I want to group between. And when I'm player numbers for condensed players, I want to stack vertically. When I'm stacking them vertically, I want to ignore the stem allocation. Tempo, let's go to gradual changes and we'll click text only. For ties, we want to go over to design. The middle thickness should be 11/50. The end thickness should be 1/10. Next, we'll go to time signatures and we'll go down to gaps. And my vertical gaps between numerator and denominator for large time signatures, we're going to make 1/8. For time signatures centered on the brackets, under 4 or more staves, we're going to switch that to 6. And we're going to make the vertical alignment on the top. And that's going to be all of the engraving options. Let's take a look and see what we've got. So it's looking really, really nice. You can see my numbers are stacked. I've got the time signature looking beautiful here. So now it's time to go into some different notation options. So I'm going to go again back to library. We're going to go to notation options. Again, Shift Command N or Shift Control N. And for cautionary accidentals, I'm going to make sure that every option here is selected with the option of show cautionary. Then we're going to talk about beam grouping. So when I have a simple time signature without a half bar, I want to break the beams at beat boundaries, and I only want to beam the eighths together when the group fills the entire bar. When we're talking about quarter note denominator time signatures with half bars, we'll break the beams at the half bar, but when it comes to groups of notes in simple time signature with a half bar, we're only going to beam together when the group fills the half bar. If I scroll down further to beams and rests, rest in beam groups, I want to break the beams at the rest. Let's go down here to condensing now. And when we talk about mid-phrase unison approach, we want to present mid-phrase unisons. Also, when it comes to inactive players, let's scroll down. Inactive players, I want to hide rest and label the inactive player. For percussion, I want to make sure that I have a rest at the start and the end of voices in a 5-line staff. We'll pad it with rests. Okay, close this, and now let's get to the next step. We're going to go into the library and we're going to go into font styles. Our default text font is going to be Times New Roman. So in the search bar, I can just type in Times New Roman. If you're using an earlier version of Dorico, you'll have to just scroll through. But Dorico 6 does give you that search option up top. I'm going to click OK. We'll go back up to library to look at some character styles. Metronome mark music text. My relative size I'm going to change to 1 1/4 and click OK. Next, I'm going to go to paragraph styles, and my default text I have to change again to Times New Roman, and we'll click OK. So you can see that's already changed the font face on my document so far. And now we're going to make some adjustments here to the preset paragraph styles. So the first thing we'll do is bar number parts. We just want to change the size to 10, and I want to make it an absolute size. We'll go over to bar number score, and I want to take the style and change it to regular. We're going to change the size to 8, absolute. Composer, we're going to make bold. We're going to change the size to 12, absolute. The next thing we're going to do is rehearsal marks. We're going to change the style to regular. The size is going to be 12, absolute. And then I'm going to hit this toggle here for size in parts. And we're going to switch this to 11, absolute. Staff labels are going to be bold. Size is going to be 7, absolute. And I'm going to slide down here to alignment and make it left aligned. Tempo gradual, we're going to make it 10, absolute. Immediate is going to be 10, absolute. And metronome mark is going to be 10, absolute. The title is going to be bold. It's going to be 20, absolute. And we're going to change the case to all uppercase. So you can see that has already made some cool changes here in our document. And now we're going to go back in and we're actually going to add some new paragraph styles. So the way we do that is just this plus button at the bottom. And we're going to call this style Arranger. And that's going to be 12-point absolute. And we're going to make sure that the alignment is to the right. Let's make another one. We're going to call this dedications / commission info. And this is going to be italic. The size is going to be 10, absolute. And we're going to make sure that the justification alignment is center. Let's do another one. We're going to call this instrument / part name. And this one is going to be bold, 12-point absolute, and the alignment is left. And we have just one more to add, and we're going to call this subtitle. And it's going to be regular, size is 10, and it's going to be centered. Now I'm putting in these different paragraph styles for you so that you can use them as you need them. You're not always going to have a subtitle, you're not always going to have a dedication, but at least it's embedded in the template for you so you can use it when you need to. So now if I look at this, I notice that my percussion staves are just a little clustered. So what I'm going to do is go over here to my staff spacing tool. I'm going to bring my percussion 3 staff down just a little bit, and I'm going to bring my percussion 2 staff down just a little bit as well. And now I have some better spacing between the three. It's a little bit more clear with what I need to see. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check out the project info. So we can do that by going to File and going to Project Info. Also, you can use Command I or Control I. And we're going to click on Project here. And right now it's called Untitled Project. I'm just going to write title. And I'm just going to type it the normal typeset. You can put in all your info here as you see fit. Copyright on a Mac, it's Option G, and then you can put in your year. And I'm going to click Apply and Close. And you'll see this is now changed to title, and my copyright info is down here. The next thing we want to do is create some page templates. So we're going to double click on the first page template. I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to add some tokens to help us with this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to move this music frame down, and I'm going to move these down a little bit as well, just so I have a little bit of space to work. And I'm going to extend this box down. And just to get into this, I have to just double click, and I'm going to click in front of it, and I want to put in the dedication or commission info. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, project info, dedication. I'm going to click enter, and I'm going to highlight this. Now remember that paragraph style that we made. If I click title and I go down here to dedications and commissions, it automatically uses the paragraph style that I've already predetermined for this particular layout type. Then underneath that, we're going to add the subtitle. So again, project info, subtitle, highlight that. And again, a nice thing on Dorico 6 is I can actually type it in and it will come up like a search box. And now my subtitle is there. This actually looks pretty good. I don't have to condense it much more than that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring up my different boxes here. Okay, so now I have Project Composer already set, and that's great. If you're going to do an arranger, you're going to need to type in ARR and then space followed by right-clicking and putting in arranger. We want to highlight arranger, and I want to click arranger. Here, we don't have a lyricist, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to highlight it, I'm going to right-click it, and this is where I'm going to put my layout name. I'm going to highlight that again, and I'm going to go down here to instrument/part name, and I'm good to go. Obviously, if your copyright info is more than one line, you're going to have to extend the text box, bring the music frame up a little bit, but at least everything is there. The next thing I need to do is copy my page layout. I can click apply and close. Now in Dorico 6, it actually puts the gray text in there where your stuff would go. So you have a kind of a nice idea as to how this will all look in the end. So that is for the score, but what about the parts? So if I go over here to, let's say, first flute, you'll see that the first page template is a little bit different. So let's go into here, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to slide this up, and we're going to just put the same sort of info in here. So again, I'm going to right click, dedication, hit enter, highlight this, switch the style over to project dedication, and then we'll put in the subtitle. If you're going to make any changes with these page templates, open up the page template and make the change. Please do not delete it on that one particular one. You'll actually do more harm than good. This will be the same page template that you would use for all of your parts. Okay, so we have Project Composer. We also had an arranger going in there as well. to make this box bigger. Switch this over to Arranger. Okay. And we'll do that. And then here we're going to go layout name. We'll go down here to instrument part name. Again, we'll copy the page layout, hit apply, and close. So now we have a really, really clean looking product. This is all great. Even our euphonium TC looks great. But when we get to percussion, let's take a look and see what that looks like. So percussion 1 actually looks really good. And the reason why it looks really good is because of that layout name that we had put in way back at the beginning of this tutorial. Let's check percussion 2. Percussion 2 looks great. And let's look at percussion 3. Percussion 3 looks great. So your next step from here is you're going to want to save this as a template. So all I have to do here is go into File. I can click Save as Project Template. You can come up with a category and a name. You're going to want to preserve the existing flows and preserve the project info, and then click Save. And then it will come up in your Steinberg hub the next time you open up Dorico.
And there you have it. Your Grade 3 concert band template is officially dialed in and ready for your next project. But before you head out, remember that the goal of a template isn't just to save time, it's to clear the mental clutter. Now, whenever inspiration hits, you aren't fighting with staff labels or margins. You're just writing music. If this helped you out, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. It really helps this channel, and it tells me you want more Dorico-specific content. Stay in the loop. If you want more tutorials on engraving, condensing, or playback techniques, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And again, if you want to use the exact template that we built today, you can download it right on my website. The link is right down there in the description. Don't feel like you have to stick to these Grade 3 rules forever though. Music is flexible, so use this as a foundation, and don't be afraid to add a harp or synthesizer if the piece calls for it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to see what you all compose with this. So get out there, get into Dorico, and I'll see you in the next video.